My name is Mira Brown. I am the Director of Internal Operations for EJF Real Estate. With us on the line is also Scott Burka, the President of EJF Real Estate. And today's topic is EJF Technology and You. The webinar will be recorded and will be available after probably early next week on our website, so you can share it with your other board members if they couldn't attend or just review some of the content. So on our poll question, we have 13 people say that they are not familiar with the functionality of the EJF portal, and 7 people say that they are. So the first part of this presentation is on our portal, so we'll give you a little bit more detail on that. We're also excited to announce a couple new partnerships that EJF is working on in the coming year that are some pretty cool technological advancements that we wanted to share with you. So first things first, welcome to the portal. Our homeowner portal is your one-stop shop for all your needs with EJF. In the portal, you can check your balance. You can check out the document library for your association, put in a service request for your association, see a calendar with scheduled events for your community, and update your contact information, among other things. So really, the portal is designed to be where you can check in on anything that's going on in your association. It is catered directly to your association. We do have a few clients who own in multiple associations, and they can toggle between the different associations that they live in. So the information that you're seeing when you log on to our portal, which is at portal.ejfrealestate.com, that is specific to your association and actually to your unit. And even further, it can be specific to an individual owner within the unit. So if, for example, you are a member of the board and your partner is not, your partner may not see the same information on the portal as you do. So given that we had more people on the line that didn't know about our portal than did, I'm going to do a little bit more than I planned on this part of it, just familiarizing you with the portal. So when you when you purchase your unit at EJF, or at an association managed by EJF Real Estate, you will get an email welcoming you to the association. And within that email, you will have the information on how to log on to the portal. The first time you log on, you're going to need what's called your portal key. And that's contained in your initial packet of information. If you lose that, just email client services at ejfrealestate.com and they can send you a new portal key so you can log on. So once you log on, you will get to the dashboard, which is what I'm showing you here. This is an example dashboard that we can use to show you the functionality. So
Mira, 1 second on this.
Yeah.
We're talking currently about a resident dashboard versus a board member dashboard, correct?
That is correct. So the resident dashboard and the board member dashboard are very similar. This is just a resident dashboard. Board member dashboard, underneath documents, it says board actions. And then there's a pull down menu for different items you can do as a board member that you're not able to do as just an average everyday resident. So this being that this was a general information session, I did not include much about the board functionality of the portal and more of the owner functionality. But yes, as Scott stated, underneath documents, you would see a board action items where you would be able to see, for example, invoices that needed approval or documents that are specific to the board of directors. So on the dashboard, the first thing you can do is update your contact information. So, ideally at closing, when you purchased your unit, we got every email and every phone number of every person that's going to be in your unit, but we all know that that may not be the case. So when you go to my contact information on our portal, you can change your contact information. If you're like me and you have a government name and a nickname, and you do want to be known by Mira and not Kazmira Ann, you could change that information in my contact info. You can add your cell phone number. You could add an alternate email address, for example. So all of that is available under my contact information. The next spot we want to call attention to is my items. So under my items, if you see Ellen Arthur, who is my example today, has one item under my items. So my items will show you any open action items on your account. So if you put in a service request that the light was out outside your unit and you're wondering where that stands, you will see that service request and it will tell you where we stand on this. I noticed that there's a question that there's someone said that they have 75% rental at their association, and can rentals log into the portal or third-party rental agents? No, actually, the portal is designed to be owner specific, and there's a reason for that, and that is that the balance information is present in the portal. And so for that reason, the portal is not available to tenants at this time. I do believe that that's something that Vanica is looking into doing. Oh, I just said Vanica, and I don't think I introduced that yet. Vanica is our software, and that is who maintains. We do the maintenance of the portal in terms of the contents that they're in, but they host the portal. It is through their software, and the information is drawn from their software. So, so my items will show you anything that's open on your account. If there's a new communication that you might not have seen, if there is a work order pending for your unit, those kinds of things are going to show up under my items. The next thing that we wanted to draw attention to is the calendar and events. So Vanica's portal has a calendar, and we've encouraged all of our managers to put in regular service into the calendar. For example, when is the trash picked up at my building? When's the next time the exterminator is going to come? Is there a move-in today? You know, why is the elevator so slow? Is there a move-in today? Those kinds of things will be found on your calendar. Again, as Scott mentioned, there are board things in the portal and there are owner things in the portal. We we are able to set board visible events, board only visible events, so that I could set up something where it told the board exactly who is moving in. For example, I manage an association that has an amenity, and the board wants to know who rented that clubhouse today. Is it unit 704 or is it 702? But we don't necessarily need everyone in the community to know. So when I enter those events into our portal, I do two events. I do one that's board visible and one that's visible to all owners, so that the board knows that the party in the clubhouse is unit 702, but everybody else just knows that the clubhouse has been reserved from 6 p.m. till 11 p.m. So we encourage people to check that calendar for questions that they might have about the association and what's going on there. So we had a question about who did I say is responsible for populating the events in the calendar? The manager is responsible. Your community association manager is responsible. At this time, the board is not able to directly enter events into the calendar. So if you as a board member would like to have something put into your calendar, make sure you call it to the attention of the community association manager, and they can input that. The other thing that's helpful is you can put in recurring events. I have an association that has something that must be done every 6 months. And so on the first of the month, every 6 months, it pops into my calendar to remind me that I need to call the plumber to preventatively snake that line, for example. So that's most of the functionality of the calendar. The last real point I wanted to call attention to here is the documents section of the calendar, or of the portal. So in the documents section, you will see, as the average owner, you will see things like minutes of meetings, governing documents, a copy of the insurance certificate, resident available financials. So that'll show you your balance sheet and your income statement. And then whatever other items your board may want us to put into the documents, like the calendar. At this time, only the community association manager can put documents into the portal. So if you have a document that needs to go into the portal, you need to send it to your community association manager and ask them to upload it. Again, as Scott stated, there are separate areas for the board and for owners in the portal, and documents is one of them. If you are a board member, you will see many more documents available to you than the average owner, because there are board specific financials. For example, the average owner can't see unit specific delinquency information, but that is available to the board of directors in the portal. In that same vein, delinquency reports are available there. But if you're looking for something like the minutes of the last meeting, or I just need an informational copy of my insurance certificate to send to my mortgage broker, those kinds of things should be available in the document section of the portal. So finally, I'm highlighting in blue, make a payment and billing. These two buttons will take you to the same place, which is how you pay your bills online. to with EJF through our portal. And there's two options there, which I will get into. I saw a question come up. It would be helpful to indicate which files are visible to owners and which are visible to board members. So in general, Pam, the documents that are available to owners are those that are matters of public record. So minutes, governing documents, actual financials. I believe, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, audits are public information, reserve studies if
That's
they're
correct.
available.
Reserve studies, things like that. Just to point out one difference between the two portals, residents will under the monthly financials, they will get I don't want to say redacted because that's not the correct term, but they will get a more limited scope set of financials that will basically be a balance sheet and income and expense statement. Whereas the board financials will be, full details, including general ledger detail, delinquency report, things like that. So that would be one of the differences you would see there.
Right. So yes, in general, what the owners see is matter of public record, whereas what the board sees is more operational and internal documentation. So the next big thing that you can do in our portal is make payments. And so before we get into the payments in the portal section, I want to just touch on cybersecurity. I know that that's something that we're all very concerned about. And so as I said before, the portal is run through Vanica, which is our software that we use. And all of your data and information are stored on their servers, not locally with EJF. None of your stuff is sitting on a motherboard in our office at U Street. It's not on EJF's cloud. It's with Vanica's cloud. And so that is a big thing. So once you input your banking data, all that we see on our end is the last four digits of your payments. So of your account number. It's not like anybody at EJF can log in and see an account number. So Vanica is 100% cloud hosted in Azure through Microsoft. Their security committee meets weekly to ensure that their policies and infrastructure are consistently revolving to meet their clients' security concerns. Microsoft Cloud Defender is used across their platform to be sure that your private information remains secure. And with a combination of firewall notifications, intrusion detection and prevention systems, vulnerability assessment reports, and operating system event logs that are reviewed daily by the team, Vanica is confident that all your data will remain secure. So just a little ping on that as we're getting into technology. So there's two options for making payments in the portal with us. You can sign up for our ACH program, which is our preference, frankly. And you can use online bill pay. And the big difference between the two of these is through EJF's ACH system, we pull once a month on the 5th of the month or the first business day after. We will pull your assessment adjusted to if there's a change, if your assessment goes up at the end of the year, we will pull the amount that is specified there. With your online bill pay, the one thing I want to say about this is that actually creates a check. And that's something that it can confuse some of our residents. So I wanted to highlight that when you go in there and you say, I want to elect to pay via credit card or e-check, what that does is it generates a check to EJF. It's not an immediate payment. And so sometimes that can result in mailing delay and that kind of thing. And so we just want to make sure that everybody's clear about that. The other issue with online bill pay is if you set up a recurring check through your online banking system, you have to change that if there's a change to your assessments. It won't be picked up automatically. So if there are any more questions about bill pay, let me know. That's timing. Somebody just asked a question. For those who have full service third-party management companies, how can owners give their management companies access to the portal so they can see the owner's account balance? So honestly, we don't recommend it, but I would say that probably you could give them your login information. I mean, Scott, what do you if you were under that management agreement?
Yeah, I mean, if you're using a third party, Keller Williams or somebody like that to manage your individual unit, that would be an option where you could provide them login information. You could do it old school and we could send a coupon book to them. But there's not a lot of options. The system really is designed to deal primarily with the owner of the actual unit. One quick thing I want to just also mention about Mira's comments about security. EJF does maintain a cybersecurity insurance policy of, I believe it's over $1 million. And we have to go through extensive vetting of our firewall and our protocols in order to keep that insurance in place and get it renewed annually. So while we're working with Microsoft, which is, obviously very, very secure, um, we're also doing things on our end within the office to make sure that we can have this insurance in place and that it meets certain requirements to qualify for that insurance.
Good point, Scott. Thank you. Okay, so payments, not all that exciting. Service requests, I think, is a big part of what we have in our portal. So if you notice an issue in your unit or in the common areas and you want to report it, you don't need to call us. You don't need to email us if you don't want to. You have the option that you can just put that in through the portal. You can go to My Issues and make a request, and you can put in a work order. It goes directly into your community manager's queue. They also get an email that a work order has been put into for, the Renaissance Association. And then once you've put it into the portal, you can track the progress on your request by just logging into the portal. Again, where we were before with My Items, right? You can click on My Items, and when the manager updates that, it will give you it will show what happens. So the other side of that on the service request is when it gets entered, you get a notification email, dear Scott, I appreciate we see that you put in a service request. It's been sent to your manager. Here is your ticket number. If you haven't heard from them within 24 hours, please let us know. Then once the manager has reviewed it and has either assigned it to a service provider or made changes, it will also generate an email to you to keep you updated on the progress on your service request. So quick note on that though, please don't report an emergency through the portal. You should always call us for an emergency. If there's water coming in through your ceiling, please call us. If somebody's working, if somebody, is lurking in the common areas and you don't feel safe, call 911, then call us. But gas leak, those kinds of things, that's not what the portal's for. The portal is for, somebody spilled coffee on the lobby floor,
The
right?
light is out.
Right, lights out, that kind of thing. We had a couple questions come in. One is, how are the payments for unit owner's ticket? So I think what you're asking here is who pays for service requests. And that is going to vary by associations and what the request is for. But my general rule, and again, Scott, check me if I'm wrong on this, but is if the governing documents say that an issue is an association issue, then we're going to take care of it. And the association will pay for it. If it's an owner issue, we'll, depending on the severity of the issue, either fix it and let the owner know that it's their issue, but fix it and bill them, or involve the board and say, Scott called, he's got this issue. It's definitely going to be his expense, but are you okay with us working on it?
Yeah, a couple comments here. So one, if we can't determine who owns the issue, we will always notify the owner that, let's say it's some sort of leak coming through the wall. We will notify the owner that until the vendor can get out and assess what the cause is, that if the cause is due to a unit specific pipe, for example, then the owner may be responsible for that repair. Or alternatively, they have the option to call a plumber on their own dime and submit for reimbursement if the plumber can verify. So generally, if we can identify what the likely cause is in advance, then yes, we will account for it or charge for it appropriately. If we're not sure, then we will advise the owner how that works. Um, the other thing to bear in mind, so two things. One is Mira mentioned not sending emergency situations through the portal. Don't also do it through email either. We need folks to pick up the phone and call us when there is an emergency. I actually had a townhouse community where a unit caught on fire years ago, and the person emailed me about it on a Sunday. I didn't know about it until Monday. I mean, so it really, that's a critical point that we try to drive home. The other comment I wanted to make related to the comment that's currently up about the board being able to view service requests. Absolutely. Um, the, the whole point of going through the portal and not going through email for that light out or whatever is that we create that tracking number. And when that task gets undertaken, we will what we call step it through the system. And so at each step, the person that filed the request will get noted, but the board through the board portal can also go in and see the status. So if somebody's, the neighbor stops you in the parking garage or out on the sidewalk and says, I submitted a request to EJF 2 weeks ago and they haven't done anything about it. You can actually go in and check that request and say, whoa, they actually submitted it Friday after 5 o'clock last week. And so it hasn't been 2 weeks, it's been 3 days. Or wait, why did EJF not handle this? And then, escalate it with the assistant manager or the community manager.
And just dovetailing on Scott's point about emergencies, we do have service to answer your calls. So 24/7, 365, dial 202-537-1801. And if it's after hours, you'll be instructed on prompts as to how to reach the manager on call. So just drive home. Please don't email or portal on emergency. So okay. So the point of today's call is to talk to you a bit about some of our new integrations and existing integrations with Vanica. So you may not know about a couple existing Vanica integrations that we think are kind of nice. So the first one is banking. So through our mutual relationship with Vanica and NCB, National Cooperative Bank, all of our association banking transitions are integrated daily. So your bank accounts, your operating bank account is reconciled daily for the association. And so it helps provide the board with more accurate and timely information. So we're not in it. It used to be that we had to wait until the mail delivered our bank statements, and then those were processed and reconciled by someone. And, in order to be able to give the board accurate financials. And what happens now is every night while we're all sleeping, Vanica gets a file from the bank, which then goes in together and calls attention to, any undeposited checks or those kinds of things and lets us know right away if there are problems. So that's something that's, not exciting to you all, but a little exciting to us. That's helped streamline our ability to work with you and give you accurate information.
So just a couple of additional comments on this. One is that so NCB, National Cooperative Bank, is EJF's primary bank for all of our clients' operating accounts. All management companies will have a relationship with a specific bank for their operating accounts of their client for many of the reasons that Mira just laid out as far as integration, auto reconciliation, things like that. It's important to know too that Vantica also has additional banks that it partners with for reserve accounts. And one of our pushes or goals with our clients is to educate them. We will doing this over the next, I don't know, 2 quarters or so, about those partner banks, because typically they will provide better rates of return. And again, because they're integrated with Vantica, we are, as Mira said, not waiting for bank statements. We are typically getting better rates and so on. So just be aware that while we use NCB for our operating accounts, Vantica has a number of other partner banks for reserve accounts that we can share with you.
Okay. The other little integration that's, again, not very exciting, but it's important, is the Vanica integrations for mailing. So they integrate with several third-party mailing providers, which allows us to streamline the physical mailing process, which I know, especially since COVID, most of our clients have really stepped back on what they physically mail, but it is still a fact of life. Some of your governing documents do require physical mailings of certain things. And so, and that includes coupon production at year end. So the direct integration with Vanica means that mailings are sent to the address or addresses that can be entered directly by the owner in the portal. So then you're not relying on, me to not put in the wrong number on your new mailing address or that kind of thing. Or, if you're a snowbird and you're in Florida for the months of December through October through March, and then you're up here for April through September, you can switch your addresses in the portal to make sure that we're always mailing to the right place. So that's we really like that integration. Is there a way for us to show the interest rates on the web for the reserve accounts held by partner banks? Scott, I don't know the answer to that one.
Now, Pamela, the simple answer there would be check with your manager after the call, and they can arrange to get you a presentation on who those partner banks are and what they're currently offering as far as rates for different products.
Thanks, Scott. Did I miss anything on the mailings integration? Okay. So now we're getting into more of the fun stuff for today. So this is the newer things that we're working on at EJF and integrations with Vanica. So we're working with a company called Smart Property, who provides sustainable asset management purpose-built for community associations. So we noticed we have a large board participation on this call, which is great. As you know, you are fiduciarily responsible for the association, and one of the major things that you're responsible for is funds management, right? And I would say, probably in general, one of the biggest and most confusing areas for a lot of my clients is their management of their reserves. So Smart Property has been working with Vanica on their integration of their reserve. They provide reserve studies, and they've been working with Vanica on integrating what they provide as a reserve advisor into the actual regular reporting that Vanica provides. So what I have up on the screen is a demo integration report from Smart Property. And so each month they would give you your total reserve balance, your total operating balance, your average assessment per unit. So that's going to be average. That's not going to be by par value, obviously. And then of your monthly average assessment, what part of that is going to reserves. And then they'll show you, this is what you've in your reserve study, you're projected to spend a certain amount of money on reserves every year, right? So it's going to tell you in this particular year, you're budgeted to spend, it looks like, let's call that $190,000. So what this is telling you is that as of today, you've spent, let's call that $125,000, right? And then it will say what you funded for your reserve contributions, what you're budgeted to fund year to date, and what you've actually funded year to date. And then where you plan to spend your money by category. And then on the next page is just a side by side of the actual reserve spend versus budget, and then your historical reserve expenses. Sorry, I don't know why that word was hard today. So this is really just the idea of the Smart Property and Vanica integration, is that it's been identified as kind of a black hole for some of our clients, that understanding exactly where their reserves stand and how much have we spent on the roof so far that needs to be replaced in 20 years versus what we should have spent on it, or a large high rise, how much have we spent on carpet? We've done 4 floors of carpet. Do we have enough money to do the other 4? And so the idea of this integration is just to give you a more clear and understandable view of where you stand on your reserve funding. And I know reserve funding is near and dear to your heart, Scott. I don't know if you want to add to the importance of this kind of integration or not.
Well, what this is doing, and we're seeing is more prevalent in the marketplace right now, is that um, people want the opportunity to really be able to drill down on what the reserve study is saying and how they're tracking on it. And there are different levels of service that can be provided through Smart Property, so that you can do everything from just get reports like this to have arrangements where you get an updated proposal for your roof replacement and it's $200,000 now, well, more now because of inflation. You can plug that in and have everything that, dominoed out and updated. So you find out that, oh, for 2024, our reserve contribution instead of 50,000 for the year now needs to be 60,000. And so what it's really doing is it's using technology to data mine these reserve studies and tell you how you're tracking, how it needs to be adjusted based on, current information that comes up, et cetera. And this is kind of a big deal because, and this is what Mira was inviting me to talk about, is that um, most jurisdictions across the country now, and locally Maryland and Virginia are in that boat. DC is not yet. We think it will move there. There are going to be statutory requirements to have reserve studies done within, every 3 years or at the most every 5 years. And additionally, there are going to potentially be jurisdictional requirements to make sure you are funding at the recommended level. And if you're not, it's going to be trouble for the association. Obvious aspects will be that market values will be impacted, but there will also be the increased issues of um, refinancing for existing owners and financing for purchasers who want to buy into your property or into your building who won't be able to do so. And so, and this is all coming out of the condo collapse, the Surfside condo collapse in Florida 2 years ago. Um, and as we said, it is moving across the country. We are seeing more and more jurisdictions take on legislation that mandates these for communities, even small ones. So it's
Yeah.
something to be aware of.
Okay. Um, so that's the smart property integration. And then the one that I'm most excited about, beginning September 1st, we are excited to announce our partnership with Stan AI. So Stan AI is the first AI-powered chatbot that's designed specifically for community associations. So by integrating with our software, Stan will be able to recognize you as an owner at your specific association and provide you with answers to the most frequently asked questions. And it will be available 24/7, 365. So
And
for
this is
example,
text only, correct?
this is text only, yes. So,
So what it'll do, it's working off of your cell number, which would
correct,
have to be in our system, which you can enter through the portal. So we
correct.
began the conversation.
So, what it is, we have this example here with, what's my balance? And then it will tell you what's your account balance. You can ask it for, a transaction history, and it can actually send you a PDF of your transaction. And so it can also answer things like, I want to move in. What do I need to do? I have a Rottweiler. Is that okay? Anything you want to ask it, for the most part it can answer it. If it can't answer it, what it does is say, I don't know that, but I'll escalate it to your community association manager. Then it sends an email or a text to the manager and says, we got this text from this guy who wants to have a boa constrictor in his unit. Is that cool? And then once the manager says no exotic pets, then Stan AI knows that for the future. So the next guy who has a Gila monster is told, no, you can't because it's there. So as Scott mentioned, it goes into our database based on the number from which you're texting. So it is very important that you go to the portal if you want to use this, that you go to the portal and you register your mobile number. Because if it doesn't see your number, it will come back to you and say, we don't recognize you. Here's how you go to the portal to update your mobile number, right? And this is because, as I mentioned, it gives you live account balances. Policy questions can tell you the status on your work orders. And so we're going to be starting, I think this week, kind of a charm offensive to our residents, saying to them, let's make sure that your number is updated in the portal if you want to take advantage of this particular functionality. So that was really the last bit of information we have. I see we have one question in the Q&A. Can the board review and advance the universe of answers for Stan? I I don't know, Scott, how do we feel about that? A lot of them are, I will say, as the person who's populating them, Pam, a lot of them are universal for EJF clients, looking at what they've shown us that are the frequently asked questions. It's where do I mail my payment, or those kinds of questions. And so I don't know if we would do that. And just Stan cannot be accessed via email. It is only via text or via chat on your phone, text messages. So Scott, I'll let you answer on the
You know,
reviewing.
I, to kind of question, it's it's a little bit TBD because it is pulling from the information, and I suspect Mira is it primarily pulling from the additional information categories.
It is, yes. We're building some of it ourselves, and there is the ability to do some custom questions per association. For example, I have that one that's a condo and a co-op, and it's going to be instructed that only, if it comes to if it comes from a co-op owner, because we don't manage the co-op, the immediate response will be, "I'm sorry, you need to contact this company." So if there are areas of concern for you, Pam, for your,
Well,
um,
she's mentioning bylaws and house rules in the chat. And so that's a little bit more specific and easier for me to answer. Regarding, questions that are posed about those topics, those would be referred up to the community manager. We've actually had this conversation internally with our managers as we've sort of talked to them about ChatGPT and using that for things like violation notices or what have you. And what we're hearing sort of across the industry for ChatGPT and for AI in general right now is that you should not rely on it for answers to bylaws, governing documents, statutes, whatever, because it may not capture it correctly. And so those types of items would be escalated up to the community manager.
once they're answered, but the way that it works, Scott, though, I want to make this clear, is that once they're answered, that answer is stored. So it would pop
Correct.
up, right? It would say, Pam, for example, is there a rental cap? Right? Let's just use that as a pretty frequently asked question. It would go to the manager to say, is there a rental cap? And then the manager would refer to the bylaws and say, Section 8.3 states that no more than 32 units can be rented at a time. And that would be then stored in Stan. So then the next time you ask that question, it would still be there to answer that. So I'm going to answer the next question, even though it's not the same next. Tristan, I will answer your question next, but I've got does Stan distinguish between board members versus non-board members? Yes, it will be able to see if you have the board ability on your, if you are registered as a board member, but I don't think it would be able to answer board specific questions in terms of accessing that information that is just designed to be board information. So, but it would, I do believe I asked that question, it would be able to say that, yes, Scott is a board member, no, Mira is not. If we ask
We
the
do
question.
obviously note within Vantica who the board members are, their position, et cetera. So if that information is entered and up to date, it will recognize you again because it's recognizing your cell number and the other biographical information associated with that cell number.
Right.
I think it's also important to just clarify, though, that the other companies across the country that we've talked to that have started using this, it really is designed as a resident feature, not so much for board matters.
Yeah.
And the intent is that if you really want to know your balance at 9 o'clock at night, here's an easy way for you to do that. Um, it's not the end all be all. It's really designed to support and enhance our client services team, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Because if you call the emergency line and ask for your balance, I think they'll answer you, but that's not what that's there for. Like, so Tristan, you asked how do we access smart property? So I will go back to them. When we did a reserve study presentation with them, they offered demo access to our clients to be able to kind of test drive it. Smart property is a paid service for in terms of your baseline start with them. So if you have an existing reserve study that you can work off of, you can play in their demo environment and kind of get some ideas of how it works. If not, you could ask your community association manager to get you an estimate for working with them to either update your reserve study, your existing reserve study, or get you guys a new one. So, but I will ask if you send me a quick email, and I'll drop my email in the chat. If you send me a quick email, I will go ahead and I don't know how to drop in a chat here, Scott, on a, a webinar. It's mira.brown@ejfrealestate.com. But if you shoot me an email, I can check in on whether or not we can get you demo access to smart property still. I think that option is still open to us when I talked to Damien last week. Um, so we are in Q&A. I don't see any hands raised. Are there other questions people want to drop into the chat? Suggestions, comments, questions for us on technology? Okay.
Vantica is doing other things that are sort of behind the scenes as well. One or two of those, for example, are the fact that both your attorney and your accountant are able to directly access Vantica. So if you have an individual who's in collections and the attorney needs an updated ledger so they can send the next letter out, um, they can actually access that directly through Vantica. Um, and sort of on a larger global viewpoint, what's interesting right now within the software realm is that in the old days, we would have to get a software system that was primarily accounting based, and then we would have to do add-ons with other third parties to send a blast email or to order a resale package or things like that. And all of that now, where the industry is moving, and Vantica is, I would argue, probably the forefront on it, um, is integration directly into the software so that they are still working with third-party vendors, but they're doing it as a direct integration. We're offering the service directly so that there is, it's cleaner, it's easier, and there's less different parties that you have to deal with out there. So it's been kind of interesting to see how that's changed.
We have a raised hand, Scott. So I'm gonna, Pamela, I've allowed you to talk if you'd like to unmute and ask us a question. Pamela, you have the ability to unmute if you want to ask your question live.
Let's go ahead and take the questions in the chat.
Yep. So will associations be charged for a pro property? I think we mean smart property here, Scott. And
that is TBD right now. As I mentioned, there are different levels of usage for smart property, and EJF is reviewing what we can do for our clients as far as making some of that available. So we should have more on that within the next 30 to 60 days.
all right.
What is the benefit of Stan IA versus AI versus conventional process? I don't know. Clearly, I'm an older individual, and so I'm just as happy to shoot an email to client services at EJF. I don't think a lot of people as many people use the phone anymore, but I would be just as happy to do that. I don't feel the need that I have to do it from my phone at 9 o'clock at night kind of thing. So I don't know that there's much in the way of benefits unless you just don't want to send that email and you want to just shoot that text message.
Robert, I will also say that, yeah, it doesn't have to be at 9 o'clock at night either, is the other thing. As someone who, Scott and I talk about this sometimes, that I would rather, but especially by the end of my workday, I would rather not speak to anyone, right? Or if I'm on this call right now and I need to know right now if I can move a cat into my next apartment. I can text someone and just do it real quick on the sly. And so I think that's kind of the benefit. It's everybody's drawing from the same info. Stan AI is drawing from our database. Our client services team is drawing from our database. So it's really, for us, it's expanding the options that are available to our clients, that myself, who doesn't like to talk on the phone or doesn't want to wait for the email, could get the immediate response that I want. And then, but my mom, who wants to call and say, oh, hi, Karen, how are you today? What's my balance? Can I have a new cat? So it's really just an expansion of availability, in my opinion. So, um, how long is financial information available on the portal? Melanie, it's available as long as we have you. I know when EJF bought Delby, we brought over some of our data and ported it, so we've gone back that far. So I don't know what happens if EJF changes to a different system. First, I quit because I've done a lot of work with Invanica. But all kidding aside, if we change to a different system, I would hope that they would have something in place to port the information over from the prior portal into the new portal. So BEPS needs utility bills back to 2017.
Yeah.
Um,
The,
should
the
you
other
be
comment I'll make, the other comment I'll make on this, Melanie, is that I know that TBM was not using electronic filing as much as we do. And so that probably relates to some of the issues you had with the utility bills. But uh, so we not only maintain all of the information in Vantica, but we also maintain it in Microsoft SharePoint. And as Mira mentioned, if you, as a client, were to leave EJF at some point, for example, we drop all of that data into a Dropbox for the new management company. So they would be able to have that going forward. And as Mira said, we have no plans to change management software companies. It's one of the most painful things to do in our industry. Um, we went on to Vanica in 2018, and I will tell you, having gone through 3 or 4 different softwares in my career of 30 years, it takes over a year for staff to get comfortable with a new software. It's a major pain point for a management company to switch softwares. So we are always very loath to do it unless there's just some major issue. And one of the nice things about Vantica is that they're very client focused. So we actually have them coming to our office next week to not only uh, look at how we're using the system and help us optimize it even more, but they're also looking at how we're using the system and what can they do that would make it even better for our managers to use. So
just
um,
just to piggyback on that, Scott, because we go to conferences on a regular basis to continue our education and make sure that we know what's going on in the industry. And I was with Scott, part of the decision to make the choice for us to go to Vanica when we did. And I will say that at the last conference I was at, I was talking to some people who were moving to Vanica from softwares that we considered 5 years ago, and they said that the big thing that drove them was that Vanica was evolving and that other companies really weren't evolving, and that they are moving with the industry, they are moving with the technology. And Vanica comes from people who managed associations. It was an association management group that thought they could do better. And so as a result, their core people are still there, that are still association management people. So they know the unique things that we face that are different from what commercial associations face and those kinds of things. And so I think that that's the big thing that I can say about Vanica, is that they constantly evolve to our needs. So I second Scott's notion that we have no plan to change. So Pamela, I've asked you to unmute if you would like to ask your question. Do you want to try putting your question in the Q&A, Pamela? Okay, Pamela, if you have a question that we haven't addressed. Oh, there you are. Hi.
Hi, I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what happened.
All right. Well, nice to talk to you then.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, it looks like we don't have any more questions. So I really want to thank everybody for attending today. I want to put in a plug for the third Thursday in September. We will be back here discussing our budget process for the year, which I know is very exciting to everyone. So thank you again for attending. We will send an email out to everyone when the recording of this session is available. And we hope to see you again on another webinar.